By the time she turned 16, she had been victim of sexual abuse, lived in 3 different foster homes. Because of her continuous attempt of running away, the state of Wisconsin placed her in a detention center till she turned 18. Her life changed when she met the legendary motivational speaker Les Brown. Today, she is a certified trainer, speaker, and coach. She is the founder of a non-profitable organization, the One Red Shoe Foundation. Today, she holds the position of Director of Member Service and Director of Outreach at the ATS Business School. Ladies and gentlemen, Michelle Mueller.
Well, Farookh, thank you so much for allowing me to come on your show. I am really honored. I am touched. I'm really touched that you would have me all the way from Texas in the United States to give a chance to tell my story, give a chance to talk about the One Red Shoe Foundation, and most importantly, my message, which there is no spare women, none. God did not create any spare women. Every single one of us count. We all have a purpose. We all need to actually lift each other up. That's what I'm here to do, and I appreciate and thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Michelle, I need to tell you something. In fact, you were recommended by somebody. And if somebody recommends somebody else, you need to know that how much value they give you. And you were recommended by somebody from the United States asking me, please make sure that you interview Michelle. And Michelle, thank you very much for taking this offer.
Mm-hmm. Who may I ask who recommended? Because I am honored. Sometimes we don't know that. Sometimes we don't know how many lives that we touch.
Yep.
Sometimes we don't realize that telling a little bit of your story or my story can actually trigger somebody to, like you said, recommend me. I'm honored. I'm glad I was able to touch somebody. Mm-hmm. I'm glad I'm actually influenced. I'm glad I made an impact, because that's what it's all about. That's what I'm here to do, is to impact and influence and help raise somebody up and not tear them down.
Absolutely. And as for John Maxwell, he has given the definition for leadership. Leadership is influencing, nothing more, nothing less. And what you have done is you have influenced somebody. If you can influence somebody, if you can bring an impact in somebody else's life, that means you are automatically a leader. A leader does not require a title, and you don't require a title. You can still be where you are, and you can influence people around the world. And that's why somebody recommended you. Michelle, until the age of 16, you had gone through a tough time, sexually abused. And up to the age of 18, you were in a group home and foster homes, etc. Would you like to share your story about while you were in the team?
Absolutely. I came from a wealthy family. We did really well, which just goes to show that circumstances even happen in the best of homes. Mm-hmm. I was sexually abused when I was 12. And the day I told my mother, she cried, and I ran away. And I continued to run away. I ran away. I was in foster home after foster home, and I would come back home. The courts would let me come back home, but I felt different being at home. I felt, number one, I felt ashamed of what happened. I felt it was all my fault. So I would constantly run away, and it was a habit of running away that actually got me in trouble. I was in foster homes, a group home, and then for my safety, because I was a young woman, I was under the age of 18, for my safety, they placed me in a juvenile correctional facility. Mm-hmm. So, and that is where, and when I got released from there, I took those habits of running away into my adulthood. Mm-hmm. I was 18, and all I knew was how to run away from my problems. So the only way as an adult to run away with your problems is through drugs and alcohol. Mm-hmm. And that's when I became addicted to drugs and alcohol. And I look back now and I realize if I would have just let somebody in if I would have just let somebody help me instead of feeling embarrassed, instead of feeling ashamed, instead of feeling guilty like it was my fault. I may have not have been in this position. I may have not have ran away, but I also believe that I also believe that we're put in a place in this life for a reason.
Yep.
And I really believe my circumstances were terrible. What happened to me was bad, and how I dealt with it was maybe not the right choice. But I believe that today I had to go through what I went through to be able to talk about it, to maybe help young girls, to maybe tell my story, to let other women hold these things in. I was actually 44 before I actually really visited my childhood and was able to come to terms with the fact that it wasn't my fault. So I realized that if I was 44 and finally coming to terms with what had happened to me, that there's so many women out there that have been struggling with something that happened to them when they were children. When this happened to me back in the 70s, I don't want to say my age. I'm 50, but things weren't talked about back then. It wasn't talked about. Sexual abuse wasn't discussed. It was in my house. It was thrown underneath the carpet. It was thrown under the rug, and it wasn't talked about. There was a big elephant in the room, and having that big elephant in the room, that's what made me feel uncomfortable and scared and ashamed. And so, yeah, that's how it all started, is when I was just sexually abused and ran away. And then I tried to self-medicate through drugs and alcohol, which led to other stuff.
What would you like to tell to the young generation, those who are going through the same experience that you had gone through in the 1970s while you were in your 60s, in your teens?
What I would like to tell them, number one, it's not your fault. It is not your fault. Your circumstances, it happened and it was terrible. But to also realize that you have the power to take control over your life, even at that young age, even as a young female, as a young adult, that you do have the power, and it's okay to ask for help. It's okay. It's okay to ask for help and just believe that whatever happened to you is not your fault. I took those feelings of guilt and shame and unworthiness and rejection. I felt like my family rejected me. I felt all alone, and that actually led me to making some really, really poor choices as a woman. I actually I had a lifestyle of men, drugs, alcohol, prostitution for 24 years before I finally said I had enough. So I'm living proof of how holding it in and not talking about it can really take you down a path that is not healthy. It's self-destructive, and it's sad. It's sad to live a life that you don't feel unworthy.
Now, you changed your life completely. I would say 180 degrees. Could you take us to that transition? What happened? What made the change? And how much effort did you put in to change?
This year will mark 7 years. It's been about 7.5 years since the day I got up and walked away from it all. I wasn't religious at the time, but I can tell now that that's the day that I say that God went to war for me. God saved my life that day. I woke up in the middle of the night. I was dirty. I was broke. My face was still bruised from an abusive boyfriend. And I got up and I grabbed my backpack. And I almost didn't walk away. Because I couldn't find one shoe. So when I finally was able, I got up and I walked away. I called a friend of a friend, and they took me to a women's shelter. So the main important part of it is I just had a feeling of come over me is that I wanted to live. I was tired. I was exhausted. I was exhausted from being exhausted. What had happened next was it was tough. It was hard. There's plenty of times that I wanted to give up. I had the help of a women's shelter, and they kept me safe. And that was their job, was to keep me safe. I was overwhelmed by how much other people actually care. I was overwhelmed by the community that I moved to. The hard part about it was actually letting go and forgiving myself. Forgiving people, and then for actually, once you release all that stuff, once you release all those negative feelings, I didn't even know I had so much in me. I was carrying around guilt, shame, unforgiveness. I had always felt very like never outside, and it wasn't until I actually was able to forgive myself and forgive other people around me it's been a process of trying to get rid of old beliefs. Throughout the years, you tend to believe that you're not worthy. Over the years, you have such a low self-esteem that all you do is pile more stuff up on top of it. And to be able to let go of everything, that was the actual moment when I actually felt like I started to live again.
So one thing that I learned from you is it's okay to ask for help, but most of the people, they don't ask for help.
Yes, asking for help, number one, it's a fear because you think somebody's going to tell you no. But the weirdest thing about it is no one has told me no. In the last 7 years, no one has told me no. It care about you and not what you can do for them. It's your circle of friends that is very important. But even as far as the people in my community, no one's told me no things to do because we want to be in control. And asking for help means you're giving your control over to somebody else, and you got to try something new. You're trying something scary. You're trying something that you're not comfortable with. So asking for help sounds easy, but it can be a process. It can be a process. Even admitting that you need help is a process.
Absolutely, absolutely. Today, you are a certified speaker, you are a motivational speaker, you are a coach, and you are associated with one of the legends, and that is Les Brown. Take us through, how did you meet Les Brown, and how did Les Brown change your life?
Oh, Les Brown changed my life in such a big way. What had happened was I had signed up to become a member last summer. And I will admit, I got scared and I fell off a little bit. I got scared of speaking. I got scared of telling my story. I got scared because my story, I have to be completely and totally honest and real and transparent and raw. And I was scared of how people were going to react to me. Not a lot of people can get up on a stage and tell the things that I've been through. And so actually I fell off a little bit, but I was able to bring myself back. I was able to be courageous and listen to him and be motivated by him. And when I was finally able, actually I went this past April 2018 to meet him, and I was able to get on the stage. They had they had a contest to, if you submit a 3-minute story by video, and they picked my video. And I was able to go on stage and tell my 3-minute story. And that, and then of course actually to meet Les for him to actually speak to me from the stage, actually shared the stage with him, actually was able to get a hug from him. And let me tell you, the Les Brown and the whole Les Brown family is they are who they say they are. So that was even more encouragement, more motivation, just to keep me going. You have to do that. You have to do that. You have to keep pouring into yourself. You have to keep motivating yourself. And that is exactly what the Les Brown family does.
Excellent. So today you have your own organization, which is called the Red Shoe. Tell me, how did you get that red shoe? And is it something connected with the same story that you mentioned right now?
It is connected. It's the One Red Shoe Foundation, and I named it One Red Shoe. What started happening is when I started telling my story, I gave my story a name, One Red Shoe. One shoe being for that night that I decided to change my life and walk away from it, that I had almost stopped walking away because I only had one shoe. So when I arrived in the women's shelter for battered and abused women, I had everything that I owned in a backpack and one shoe. It wasn't red though. It wasn't red. I decided on the color red because to me red means forgiveness. Red means power, meaning I have the power to create my reality. I have the power if I put thoughts into my emotions, and I can create my day. Red is sexy. And I also chose red for my ladies who do work on the street. That is something that prostitutes have been always associated with the color red, and red has been a color that women have not been allowed to wear so much. They do now, but I like to use the color red to symbolize that the prostitutes and that they are people, they are women, they do matter. So then, of course, One Red Shoe turned into the One Red Shoe Foundation, and that is my nonprofit, which I want to reach all women. My mission is that there are no spare women. Every woman matters.
Wow. Is there any occasion or situation where somebody came to you and said, Michelle, you really changed my life, or you made an impact in my life?
Yes, there have been. There's several. I live in an area. I live in Galveston Island, and there's many homeless women. So I drive a moped to outreach to my ladies, and I bring them hygiene. I bring them whatever it is that they need, and so many of them tell me how I just changed their life. Not that I'm getting them off the street, but that I'm just giving them hope, and I'm just loving on them. I just give them, I know their names. So quite a few of them they cry every time I leave them because they have a little bit of hope in them. And that makes me cry too, because I know I made a difference in their day that day. So there's been a few women who have said that I've changed their life.
Wow. So what is the main reason why people go to the street?
They go to the street because, number one, they feel like they're all alone. They feel like nobody understands. They feel like nobody understands them. They feel unloved. They feel unworthy of love. They don't understand themselves. They don't have any self-love. They don't have any self-esteem, and they feel like they're all alone.
Wow. So what is your vision for the next 3 years? What is your goal, if I use the word?
For the next
3 years.
My goal for the next 3 years is actually I'm designing a program that I would love to go to our county and city jails here in our community and across Texas and the United States, is to go and talk to these women who are incarcerated, not in the prison systems, because they have programs in the prison systems, but none here in our county jails and our city jails. A lot of women who work the street are arrested and they're released within a week. there is no program, there is no teaching, there is no hope. They feel like there's no hope. And if I can design a program, a workshop, a workbook to go into the jail and speak to them and let them know that they have the power to change their lives. They low self-esteem is so, that I think that's the cause of a lot of the time. It's when the women, they get with the gentleman because they feel like they can only, that's all they deserve. And I need to let women know that they deserve whatever they want. They just have to believe in themselves. They have to believe that they can do it. And there was several times I was in jail, and when I got released, I went right back to my same lifestyle because I didn't have any tools. And that's what I'd like to do, is I'd like to go to these county jails, these city jails, and just have a workshop for these women and teach them that, give them some sources, let them know how important they are, not tearing each other down.
Wow. Michelle, you have a limitation because you are an individual, because you have a limitation. Now, what is your thought and what is your idea? How can you spread the message? How can people be associated with you because of your limitation? Do you have a team that can help you?
I do have a team. I actually am working with Antonio Tisma Jr., who is incredible. He has his business university. He has a mastermind group, and we're all collaborating. And I have 100% approval. I have 100% everything that I need. He's supporting. He is a multimillionaire. So we're in the process of doing some really, really big things. That goes, yeah. I am, like you said, I am limited as far as me and just one person, and that's how important it is to get the One Red Shoe Foundation out there. That's how important it is to, you have to start at home. You have to start somewhere, my community, but there's so many women out there, and I can't do it alone. So I need the help with my team. I need help with the public, and thank you, Farookh, for actually helping me bring this awareness to international levels, because this doesn't just happen in America. This doesn't just happen in Texas. This is all across every continent. Women have these feelings. It doesn't matter what language you speak. It doesn't matter what race you are. It doesn't matter if you're young, if you're old. This is something that women go through. We go through unworthiness feelings. We go through low self-esteem. We go through not being understand why we are the way that we are today. So, and we hurt. We're hurting. So this is something that women across the world will benefit from.
Wow. Let's imagine that you are taking your One Red Shoe to the next level. What would be your immediate action you would be taking next week so that you are planning to take it to the next level?
To the next level of my immediate action is actually to get my pamphlets out to the women who need them. Just as far as self-awareness, making sure that they're aware of who they are. So that's the next step, is getting the pamphlets out, getting the word out about self-worthiness and about self-esteem. So I also am writing a book, so hopefully about my story. It's actually memoirs of when I lived on the street. So that will also get the word out. So I'm excited about the book. I really am.
Wow, that's great. And do you know that you would be one of our co-authors in the coming book, which says, "How did I change my life as an author, speaker, and a coach?" And you would be one of the co-authors.
I am so thrilled about that. I am honored, and I'm actually a little speechless because that is such an honor, but I am so forever grateful, and I am happy to do it.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Thanks a lot for taking your time and joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, Michelle.